Burning forests and devastated homes in California. Will global warming make scenes like these ever more common in years to come?
Now, research shows the increase in the number of large western wildfires in recent years may be a result of global warming.
Since the late 80s, far more land has burned compared to the previous 2 decades, a pattern seen across the West.
Emergency services believe climate change is making their job ever harder.
It has become conventional wisdom that a warming climate has led to larger and more severe fires in the western U.S. over the past few decades. The West is definitely warmer, but is it part of a long-term warming trend connected to global climate change? Dave Peterson, a wildland fire researcher with the Pacific Northwest Research Station, says no. But make no mistake, Peterson believes that climate change is real and will likely bring big changes to fire regimes in the near future. He just thinks we've gotten ahead of ourselves in making broad claims of the links between global warming patterns and recent increases in fire area burned. Much of the recent attention paid to links between climate and wildfire was fueled by a 2006 paper that appeared in the journal Science. The authors of the paper put together a database of large wildfires in western U.S. forests since 1970. They found that large wildfire activity increased suddenly and markedly in the mid-1980s, with higher large wildfire frequency, longer wildfire durations, and longer wildfire seasons. The researchers attributed the increases to increased spring and summer temperatures and an earlier spring snowmelt. The paper received a great deal of attention in the national and international media and has become the touchstone for almost every media report and even most academic articles dealing with climate and fire. Peterson says that if you look at data on area burned since 1910, in the earliest 20th century there was a lot of area burned, a lot less burned in mid-century, and a lot of area burned in the late 20th century. If you superimpose climate over the same time period, you see a similar pattern: warm, cool, warm. Fires in the early parts of the 20th century were massive. The big blow-up of 1910 covered 3 million acres, an area the size of Connecticut. Other fires in that era were also large, even in comparison to today's standards. However, Peterson's work should not give natural resource managers cause to let their guard down. Working along with a group of researchers, Peterson found that the climate was more of a driver of fire activity in the northern parts of the West, whereas fuels were the major driver in the Southwest. Dry, warm conditions in the seasons leading up to and including the fire season are associated with increased area burned in most northern and mountain regions. Presumably, low precipitation and high evapotranspiration deplete fuel moisture over larger than normal areas. These conditions increase the probability of ignition and the potential for fire spread. In contrast, in the Southwest, moist conditions in the seasons prior to the fire season are more important than warmer temperatures or drought conditions in the year of fire. Moist conditions produce fine fuels in the understory, which cure in subsequent years to become available fuels, prior to the arrival of monsoon rain in the summer. So in summary, according to David Peterson, there isn't conclusive evidence that the recent increase in fire activity is directly linked to global climate change. However, research has shown connections between climate and fire in different parts of the western U.S. This implies that management options for responding to climate change might be more or less limited, depending on the nature of fire-climate relationships. In fuel-limited ecosystems, fuel treatments can probably mitigate fire vulnerability and increase resilience more readily than in climate-limited ecosystems. Stay tuned to Advances in Fire Practice throughout 2010 as we highlight how land and fire managers can prepare for the challenges of climate change. For Advances in Fire Practice, this is Josh McDaniel.